أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات بيج محمد وعلى Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Tonight being the third majlis of this series on 2nd of Muharram, the day when the caravan of Imam Hussein enters into the land of Karbala. And inshallah with this specification we will have the Masaib according to that how Imam's army or Imam's small army enters into Karbala. But going back to the verse that I've been reciting in front of you from Surah Fajr, the last 4 verses, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing to this nafs or this soul which is being referred to as mutma'innah. Nafs, which is in the state which is satisfied, nafs in the state where it feels tranquility and at peace. And so here we understand the concept how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing those individuals who possess this sort of nafs. And so if you don't possess that sort of nafs, you're not being addressed in this ayah. But if you do possess this type of nafs, as there are different definitions and different explanations and different types of nufus have been discussed in Quran, then you are the one who's being addressed in this ayah. The simple translation says, "Oh, the serene soul or the soul which is at rest, return to your Lord in the state pleasing and well pleased. Enter among my servants and enter into my paradise." So the first and the foremost thing which is being addressed over here, there are 5 things which we can derive from this ayah. First is who is being addressed. So you ask yourself this question, is this nafs that I possess, is this nafs mutma'in? And so the question arises, what is the mutma'in nafs? Every single individual, and I will keep on using the word mutma'in because I've already translated, the word mutma'in means that which is satisfied, that which is at the state of serenity or well pleased with, or at the state of tranquility or at peace. Different translations. So we need to ask this question as to, is our soul nafs mutma'in? Because every single individual in this world is looking for tranquility and peace. In our lives we strive to seek or to work towards getting this peace of mind. Whether it is our work life, whether it is the life inside our houses, whether it is the life which we have with our friends and members of the community, we're trying to find peace and tranquility. We're looking for itminan. And itminan and nafs is something which every single person is looking after. Directly or indirectly, our intentions and motives are to go ahead and seek this itminan if it's possible. But unfortunately, some people try to look for itminan in the materialistic things. Some people find itminan in wealth. That if I had more wealth, I will be mutma'in. But you look at the people who possess masses of wealth, abundance of wealth, you still find that those people are not at peace or at tranquility. In fact, you find the most trouble And I'm talking about the millionaires and the billionaires in the world. You find they are at the most trouble as far as their personal life is concerned. So if wealth could bring tranquility and peace and itminan to your nafs, those people would be at rest. Those people would be completely satisfied. Yet we see that they're not. Majority of them are not. That tells you that wealth will not be the method to reach this tranquility. Some people find itminan in their children. That if you see your children succeed, that is a matter of reaching this itminan qalb. Some people find it in their peers, in their family members, in their relatives, whatever the case might be. But when you look for itminan in the materialistic things, it will be short term. Remember that. Because materialistic things themselves are short term. And if you're looking for itminan in the things which are short term, then obviously it's not going to be long lasting. So here we understand the concept that when we search for serenity of the heart and itminan qalb in the materialism, then obviously it will only be for a little while, and then we'll go back to the same state that we were in before. So therefore, hence, our work is cut out. We refer towards the verses of Quran. Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Quran tells us, gives us the formula how to attain this serenity. It said in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lies itminan qalb. Don't need to search any far. Don't need to go beyond this. This is where you will find it. You can take many vacations you want to many spots in the world, to the locations where people are dying to go to. You come back, you're not satisfied. But one journey you make to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, facing all the troubles that you do while over there, going through all the difficulties in the life, being surrounded by millions of people, getting hurt, being beaten up and whatnot, all of those troubles that people go through at Hajj. But when you come out of it, you feel satisfaction. This is the reason why Quran says, Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Indeed, in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you find this itminan qalb. In the first majlis, we already mentioned that when we gather over here for the zikr of Ahlul Bayt, and that hadith that I had recited from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which referred towards the zikr of Ali being the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not going to repeat the hadith. I'm sure everybody has it in their minds. That is one of the reasons why we are gathered over here. We are commemorating the tragedy that took place so many years ago, yet this gives us comfort. This gives us itminan qalb. You would not be anywhere else but on the Farsh Azad during the month of Muharram. But Imam Hussain should not be limited to the month of Muharram and Safar, or those days, the specific dates. The message of Imam is for every mankind, and inshallah I will prove that is how. So going back to the ayat, now that we have established how do you attain this itminan qalb, the serenity is achieved through the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayat of Quran says, Innamal mu'minuna. Mu'mineen are only those individuals. إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجَلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. When the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is done, their hearts tremble. How many times have you felt that? That someone has said Allah and your heart has started trembling. In a literal sense, if you take the ayat of Quran in the literal sense, which is not a good thing to take the ayat, not always all the ayat could be taken in the literal sense. وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. And the verses of the Quran is recited upon these individuals, their iman increases. How many times have you heard a verse of Quran and your iman increased? How many times has that happened to you? How many times you've heard the name of Allah and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your heart started trembling? You can easily relate to the names and the word Allah itself, especially in this month of Muharram. You'll find people who might not speak your language. And it happened to me that I've gone to speak. Usually I'm invited to speak in English, and speaking in English, giving the masaib. Those older folks who do not speak a word of English, as soon as they hear the word Hussein, right away tears come down their eyes. The same way they hear the word Allah, their hearts start trembling. When you have that fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hearts will tremble and the heart will respond. So now going back to the ayat, one thing that we need to ask is, this soul that we possess, is it mutma'in? What kind of soul do we possess? Second thing that we need to know is the connection between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What kind of connection do we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It says, irji'i, come back to me. Irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan. Is this connection one way or is it two way? Because one way connection will not be good. Will not serve the purpose. You just gotta have a two-way connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you are radhi with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the decrees of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on the return, He is also satisfied with you and your actions. Imam says that amalun qaleel, even if you do short little action, but there's dawam in that action, that means there's continuation and continuity in that action, that is more beloved in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if that action might be little bit. If you are satisfied with what Allah has given to you, Allah will be satisfied with your small actions as well. So we need to know now, what kind of connection do we have with God? Is it one way that we are razi with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What can we do? Do we have any other choice not to be razi with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can we change anything? Whatever Allah has decreed for us, razi bil qadr wal qada. We say ala aini wa ra'asi. Whatever Allah has done and said, we got to accept it. So we're razi with what Allah has done. But the main question is He radhi with us as well or not? So the connection is two-way. So that's the second and the third thing. First, what kind of soul do we possess? Second, what kind of connection do we have? Is it one way or is it on return? Two-way connection. And thirdly, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is inviting you to enter among His servants. We haven't understood the worth of ibadat. And I've mentioned it before, so I will only remain content with one line. That ubudiyat and the servitude of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such a state where many of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are referred to as ibad in the Quran, as opposed to any other titles that they might possess. Even in the tashahhud, what do we say? Ashhadu anna Muhammad abduhu wa rasuluh. That I bear witness that Muhammad is the servant of Allah first, and then the Rasul of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is his mansab, that is his position. But still he's referred to as the abd of Allah first, and then on the second state he's referred to as the Rasul of Allah. So that is the status of ubudiyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Are we the abd of Allah or yet or not? So that is the fourth thing over here. And finally, where are we headed? Are we headed in the direction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where He can say, فَادْخُلِي فِي إِبَادِي وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي, enter into my paradise. This, in short, is basically the summary of these 4 verses that we've been reciting from the very first night. Salawat Viji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And then, this is the message that Quran is trying to relate to us as well. These 5 messages that you receive from this ayat, by pondering over these ayat, we can deduce all of these sorts of messages. And the message that we have began our majalis with is the pagham of Ashura, the messages from Ashura. In order for us to understand the messages from Ashura, we need to understand who is delivering the message. The deliverer of the message is Imam Hussein. So in order for us to understand and comprehend the message, we also need to comprehend the messenger as well. Messenger is who? Third Imam. If the messenger is very limited in his knowledge, if a messenger does not have a very wide scope, then the message will also be limited. And the scope will be very limited. But if the messenger has unlimited scope and knowledge, and from where he comes from, it's infinite knowledge that he possesses, then the message would also be far-reaching. What am I trying to deduce from this? We need to ask this question: the messenger and the message of Ashura that we are trying to adopt over here, is Imam Hussein and his message only for the Shi'ayan Ahl Bayt? Or the message of Imam Hussein is for the brothers of Ahl Sunnat as well? Or the message of Imam Hussein is only for the Muslimin of the world? Or does it reach beyond the Muslimin as well? Is the message of Imam Hussein only for those who are muwahhideen, believing in one God and believing in the divine scriptures and the divine religion? Or the message of Imam Hussein is even beyond those individuals who do not even believe in any divine scripture or the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If we consider Imam Hussein to be the Imam of the Shias, then the message is only for the Shias. If we consider Imam Hussein to be the leader of all of Muslim Ummah, then the message will be reserved only for the Muslim Ummah. If we consider Imam Hussein to be the leader of monotheism, the message will only be reserved to those who believe in monotheism. But if we consider Imam Hussein to be Khalifatullah fi ardeh, representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the face of the earth, then his message is ever encompassing, his message is for every human being on the face of the earth. And to prove this point even further, I'll use one hadith by Rasulullah, and I'll use one ayat from Quran as well. Hadith of Rasul says, Husaynun minni, and you know the rest. Wa ana min al-Husayn. Hussein is from me, and I am from Hussein. Very simple hadith, I'm sure you've heard it many times. The first part is very self-explanatory. Hussein is from me. He's the grandfather. Hussein is the grandson. So yes, technically speaking, he is from Hussein minni is correct. That Hussein is from Rasulullah. But the later part of the hadith is also understood. Wa ana min al-Husayn. We understand that Prophet is not talking about this connection of father and grandson, or the grandson and the grandfather, or father and son rather. Rasulullah is referring towards the message and the legacy. That due to Hussein, the religion will survive. And if the religion survives, Rasulullah's name survives. And therefore, ana min al-Husayn. Because of Hussein, the religion survived, and therefore I am from Hussein. You stop here for a second, take you to the court of Yazid, where our fourth Imam is standing. After Bibi Zainab had given the khutbah, Imam Zainul Abidin had given the khutbah. The khutbah was going at the extent that Yazid had to cut off the kalam of Imam. He asked the Muazzin to give azan. Over here, if I was giving a lecture and someone started giving adhan, instead of me listening to it, I will say, what are you doing? Let me finish my speech and then give the adhan. Imam quiets down, because adhan was being raised. Although it was being raised for a wrong purpose over there. It was being raised to stop Imam from speaking. Yet Imam quiets down. He says Allahu Akbar. He says Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. And then when he reaches Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, Imam says, stop over here. Stop over here. Who is Muhammad? Is Muhammad your Jad or is Muhammad my Jad? Is Muhammad your grandfather or is Muhammad my grandfather? That is the biggest proof of our victory, that the name of Rasulullah is still in the adhan. So going back to our discussion, Ana min al-Husayn means that because this religion has survived, because Islam has survived, the legacy of Rasulullah continues. Prophet says, Ana min al-Husayn. And then, why was Prophet sent? Refer to the ayat of Quran. Quran says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. O Prophet, we did not send you except to be mercy for all of mankind. And in another place in Surah Sabah, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا كَافَّةً لِلنَّاسِ. We did not send you except for all. Kaffatan means every single human being. Not Muslimin, not Mu'minin. Kaffatan linnas. For all of mankind. When Rasulullah is sent for all of Alameen, when Rasulullah is sent for all of the human beings on the face of the earth, and he is the one who's saying, Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn, then the message of Imam Husayn ﷺ could not be limited to the Shias only. Message of Imam Husayn could not be limited to the Muslimin only. Message of Imam Husayn could not be limited to those who believe in monotheism. Message of Imam Husayn is for every individual, regardless of where they come from. Salawat Beji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And there are two benefits of this message. One is this message is jami', encompassing, over-encompassing. And it has kulliyat, that means it's universal. Jami', that it covers every single individual. Universal, that it is everlasting. It's not for a certain era. It's not for 1400 years ago. It's not for a pre-Islamic era. It's not for the Middle Ages. No, it's for all the time until the Day of Judgment. That is the message that we are referring towards, brothers and sisters. Again, going back to our topic that we had began, that Imam knew about his shahadat. And we see every step of the way how Imam ﷺ is giving this message. He is completely aware of his shahadat. Not only because of that, because Rasulullah kept on giving these ahadith when Imam was very young. He spent 6 or 7 years with Rasulullah, and there's so many ahadith in regards to Hussein, you will be martyred in the land of Karbala. When Salma is stopping Imam Hussein, oh Hussein, if you're going towards Iraq, please don't go. I've heard your grandfather that one of his sons will be martyred in Iraq. I don't want it to be you. He said, if I don't go today, I'll go tomorrow. You only know that one of the sons of Rasulullah will be martyred. I know who it is, and I've seen that scene as well. It's common knowledge to me. And in fact, Imam leaves some signs with her saying that when this sand becomes colored into blood, then let it be known that your grandson has been martyred. So Imam knows about his martyrdom from the very beginning. And this is where we see that Imam, it could be heard from the verses or the poetry that Imam recited. He says, Taraktul khalqa turran fi hawaka. I left the khalq, the people, in the shawq and the enthusiasm and in the desires for you. He said, Wa aitamtul iyala likay araka. Aitamtul iyala. Aitamtu means I made orphans. My family, likay araka, so that I may come towards you, O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see the message that Imam is giving over here, the tawheed and the monotheism, and the shawq for shahadat that Imam ﷺ has over here. A lot of people came up to Imam giving him advices. Some were honest in giving the advice, some were not too honest. Muhammad Hanafiya, brother of Imam, gave him advice saying, don't go. He was fearful of Imam being martyred. He said, don't go. Likewise, Abdullah came and said to Imam, Abdullah ibn Ja'far came and said to Imam, don't go. Imam gave him reasons why he's going. Some people such as Abdullah ibn Umar came to Imam and said, to the extent that don't go. But he didn't stop over there. He says, don't go, and go ahead and pay allegiance to Yazid as well. Don't try to create fitna in the society. These are the words. Because everyone is believing in what Yazid is doing, and everyone has paid allegiance. Why do you want to take a different course? You'll be causing fitna in the society, so don't go. Not understanding that the legitimacy of that hukumat. And as I recited yesterday as well, Imam said, in regards to the hukumat of Yazid, إِذْ قَدْ بُلِيَتِ الْأُمَّةِ بِرَاءٍ مِثْلَ يَزِيدٍ عَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ السَّلَامِ. In Arabic, you say Assalamu alaikum. And when you leave, you say Wassalam. First is Salamun alaikum, peace be upon you. When you say Wassalam, again, you're saying bidding farewell. Imam said, Alal Islam as-salam. In Urdu, we also say, Iska to Khuda Hafiz. What does that mean? That means, Alal Islam as-salam. Goodbye, bid farewell to this Islam. Which Islam? إِذْ قَدْ بُلِيَتِ الْأُمَّةُ بِرَاعٍ مِثْلَ يَزِيدٍ. When Ummah is seeing a person like Yazid to be head of the Islamic State. And Imam is not referring towards the individual Yazid. Imam is referring towards anyone who has Yazidi type sifat until the day of judgment does not belong on this place. So here we see that these people are giving advice to Imam that don't go. Pay allegiance. Whereas this is directly against the teachings of Quran. Quran says, وَلَا تُطِعِ الْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Do not pay tribute or do not be obedient towards those who reject the message. وَلَا تُطِعِ الْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Yazid, what did he do? He said it very clearly. لَعِبَتْ حَاشِمُ بِالْمُلْكِ فَلَا خَبَرٌ جَاءَ وَلَا وَحْيٌ نَزَلَ. Banu Hashim were only playing with this whole government, with this whole religion, Islam and whatnot. There was no wahi that ever came down. There was no news that ever came down. And Imam ﷺ is supposed to agree to what this person is saying. As soon as Imam heard, Sharibul Khamr, is that the individual that you want to pay allegiance to? Just because there shouldn't be any fitna in the society? So every step of the way, Imam is reciting these ayat, and Imam ﷺ is mentioning as to what he's doing. He says, إِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ الْقَوْمِ قَدْ لَزِمُوا طَاعَةَ الشَّيْطَانِ وَتَوَلَّوْا عَنْ طَاعَةِ الرَّحْمَنِ. Again, a message from i'tiqad and the beliefs and theology. Imam says what? He says, these people, هَؤُلَاءِ الْقَوْمِ قَدْ لَزِمُوا طَاعَةَ الشَّيْطَانِ. They have made the ta'at and the obedience of shaitan upon themselves. وَتَوَلَّوْا عَنْ طَاعَةِ الرَّحْمَنِ. And they have steered away from the ita'at and the obedience of Rahman. Not only seen in the words of and kalam of Imam ﷺ, but also seen in the actions of Imam ﷺ. I look at the clock and I have to recite a lot of masaib today. A few masaib today. But just to end it, we see that the hadith that Imam made it very clear when he was leaving. And this was addressed to his brother Muhammad Hanafiya. In fact, it was addressed to everyone. Imam said, إِنِّي لَمْ أَخْرُجْ عَشِرًا وَلَا بَطَرًا وَلَا مُفْسِدًا وَلَا ظَالِمًا. Let it be known, the reason of my khuruj is what? I'm not leaving to cause any chaos, corruption in the society, to be unjust to anyone. إنما خرجت لطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي. The prime reason for my khuruj is what? To seek islah and reform in the ummah of my Jad, in the nation of my grandfather. أريد أن أأمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر. All I plan on doing is أمر بالمعروف ونهي عن المنكر, which is not a recommendation. It is a wajib upon me. وَأَسِيرُ بِسِيرَةِ جَدِّي وَأَبِي. And lastly, a beautiful sentence Imam said, I want to be able to follow the seerat of my Jad and my father. What is he saying? That the seerat of my Jad and my father is being neglected. I want to be able to follow that. Amr bil Maruf and Nahi anil Munkar is being neglected. I want to be able to perform that. The society has reached a limit that requires reform in it. I want to perform in the makharajtu li talab al islah. I want to perform reform and cause reform in the society. These are the motives that I'm embarking on this journey. Not to cause any sort of chaos and corruption. Not to be unjust towards any individual. No, those are not my incentives. Very clearly, Imam ﷺ made it clear for every single person why was he embarking on this journey. And then when we see that Imam reaches a place known as Tha'labiyya, he hears the news that two of his close allies, one was his ambassador, Muslim ibn Aqil, second, Hani ibn Urwa, who was helper of Muslim when he reached Kufa. Both of them have been martyred. Imam runs into a shair, a poet, Farazdaq. Imam asks him, "O Farazdaq, what are the conditions in Kufa?" A famous sentence is still in the books. He says, "Qulubuhum ma'aka wa suyufuhum alayka." Their hearts are with you, O Imam, but their swords are against you, O Imam. People say, why did Imam go towards Kufa then? Why did Imam go towards, for example, Yemen? Imam Ali had literally made Yemenis Muslims. He had converted them to Islam. They were still loyal to Imam. Why didn't he go down towards Yemen? Why didn't he stay in Medina? Did any individual stand up with Imam and saying that, Imam, if you don't go and don't leave Medina, and tomorrow if we get attacked, we will protect you? Nobody said that. Why didn't Imam stay in Makkah? Well, Imam wanted to protect the sanctity of Makkah. That's why he didn't go. Why didn't Imam go away from the conflict? Maybe towards Egypt. That could have been easy. Again, all of those instances, Imam would have been going to places where there were no invitees over there. At least Kufans, no matter what they did afterwards, at least they invited Imam. If Imam had not gone towards Kufa, Kufans could have turned around and said, we wrote 18,000 letters to Imam. He didn't come. We were ready to embrace him. He did not come. All of these things put into perspective, Imam chose the path which was the best, going towards Kufa. But what did Farazdaq say? Imam, qulubuhum ma'ak. Their hearts might still be with you, suyufuhum alayk, but their swords are definitely against you. This is where Imam ﷺ sees a dream. And when he wakes up from the dream, he narrates the dream. He says, indeed, this caravan of ours is headed towards death. Youthful son of Imam Ali, Imam Hussein, Hazrat Ali Akbar comes up and says, "Oh Baba, are we not on the right path?" He said, "Yes, we are indeed." Then who cares about death? Let it come upon us from all directions. As long as we are on haqq, who cares where death comes upon us? These are the people that are with Imam. And then when Imam reaches a place where he says to his companions to go ahead and take as much water as they could, because there will not be water afterwards, they collect all the water that they could have, enough water to feed 1,000 men for a couple of days. Imam takes enough water with him. They're marching. As soon as they start marching, they see a lashkar, a caravan, an army coming towards them. Imam Hussain says to Hazrat Abbas, "Oh Abbas, go check out who is it." Hazrat Abbas comes back and says, "It's Hur coming with his army to attack us." Imam waits over there. The army of Hur reaches. 1,000 thirsty men and 1,000 thirsty animals. Imam says, "Open the water for them. Give them the water." To the extent that the last person, Ibn Artat, his name was, he said, "When my turn came to drink water, I thought I was dead." 1,000 people drinking water one after another, and the animals are being given water as well. He said, "By the time it was my turn, I thought I was dead." I see that Imam gets up from his place. He was monitoring the whole incident. He gets up from his place and he brings water personally to me. I could not comprehend who it was, what was happening. I drank water. This was the state of the army of Hur. If Imam wanted, he could have taken out all of those individuals, all of those people right at that moment. But Imam has not gone with the intention of war. Imam does not want to start the war. So Imam gives water to Hur, gives water to Hur's men, gives water to even the horses and the camels and all the animals that came along. Time comes for namaz. Imam says, "Oh Hur, you are Muslim. Go ahead and perform your namaz. We're going to go ahead and perform our namaz." Hur says, "Oh Imam, Yabna Rasulullah, as long as you are here, we're going to pray behind you." They line up, they start performing the namaz behind Imam. If an onlooker has seen, they would have said, Hur and his army has joined Imam Hussain. Namaz finishes, Imam gets back on his horse, and he wants to continue. Hur holds the rein of Imam's horse. Imam could have turned around and said to Hur, "Hur, you forgot, we just gave you water. You forgot the favor that I just did to you, and your men were dying of thirst, and you're stopping my path?" But they come from the house which is known for its generosity. He's the grandson of Rasulullah. He's the son of Amirul Mu'mineen. He's brought up in the arms of Janab Sayyidah. He studied under the tutelage of Hassan and Ali ibn Abi Talib. He did not turn around and brag and boast that we just provided water to you and now you're holding our path. Instead, Imam said one thing, a striking sentence towards Hur. "O Hur, may your mother sit in your aza. O Hur, may your mother sit grieving for you and crying and weeping for you." Imam knows which land to cultivate, which land and which heart is fertile enough to take what Imam is saying. This was the first arrow that Imam hit towards Hur. What does Hur turn around by saying? "If it was anyone else but you, O Imam, I would have replied back the same way. But I know you're son of Fatmatul Zahra. I cannot reply back in the same fashion." Hur at least has that much humanity left in him, that he understands that Imam Hussain is the son of Janab Sayyidah. And Imam said it for a purpose. Why? Because he wants her to keep on remembering who is he standing up against. Son of Fatmatul Zahra. Son of Fatmatul Zahra. From 2nd of Muharram, when this caravan enters into Karbala, up until 10th of Muharram, until Ashura, the sound that he is the son of Fatmatul Zahra is echoing in the mind of Hur ibn Yazid Riyahi. On the night of Ashura, Hur is seen in a state where he cannot control himself. He has to lead the battalion tomorrow for the war that has to take place. People are saying, "Hur, take some rest. You got big task tomorrow, a big day tomorrow." But Hur cannot find any sleep for himself. Hur cannot find any sleep. He goes to Ibn Sa'ad. He said, "Tuqatil hadha rajul? Are you going to fight this individual, this person, Hussein? Are you going to kill him?" He said, "Yes, wallahi, we will kill him, and we will kill everyone who has come with him." This is where Hur, his complexion changes. A person, an onlooker, sees Hur and says, "Oh Hur, I see you in a state where you're terrified. You are known for your valor and bravery." Nobody could say that this is Hur who's terrified. Up against who? 72 men and some weak women and children? You have fought many wars. You're better than that. Hur said, "You don't see what I see. I see myself between heaven and the hell. When I left Kufa, I heard a voice, 'Oh Hur, glad tidings, you're going towards the paradise.' I turned around and said to myself, I'm going to fight son of Rasulullah. Where's paradise in that?" This is where he understands what the interpretation of that dream was, or that voice was. He starts going towards the camp of Imam Hussein. He's heard some voice behind him. He turns around and he sees his young son is following the father. He says, "Oh my son, where are you coming?" He said, "Father, wherever you're going, I'm going with you." He said, "Then come along. I think you can help me." Hur gives him his handkerchief and says, "Here, tie my hands so that I enter the bargah of my Maula in the state that my hands are tied up." Hur and his son make it to the tent of Imam. Imam announces, "Go ahead and welcome the guest that is coming towards us. Go ahead and welcome the guest that is coming towards us." Just the last few sentences and inshallah it will be over. "Go ahead and welcome this guest which is coming towards us." Hur is coming with his hand tied. He throws himself onto the floor and he says, "Oh Mawla, can I be forgiven for what I have done to you?" Every single thing that Hur has said is coming back to his mind. "I was the one who held you back. I was the one who blocked your way. I was the one who stopped water upon you." All of those things are going through Hur's mind. And this is where Hur is sitting down and he's saying, "Oh Mawla, can I be ever forgiven for what I have done?" Imam said, "Hur, I have forgiven you. My Lord has forgiven you. Now get up." Hur says, "Mawla, give me the permission to go ahead and sacrifice myself." Imam said, "Oh my guest, you have just arrived into my tent. I have not even fed you anything. I have not given you any sip of water, nor do I have any water. And now you want to take this rukhsat." Hur says, "Mawla, I want to be the first one to sacrifice myself unto you." Before he could do that, Hur's son says, "Oh Baba, I want to go first." Hur gives the permission. His son goes towards the Maqta. After fighting, his son comes down onto the ground. And when he could not bear the pain of the wounds that he has suffered, he called upon his father, "Oh Baba, oh father, come and see. Hi, so come and say salam and come and meet your son for the last time." After hearing this, Hur gets up. He wants to go towards Maqtal, but Imam comes to Hur's assistance. Imam says, "Oh Hur, what are you doing?" He said, "Ba Mawla, my son is calling. I want to go help him out." He said, "Oh Hur, you could not bear the pain of going and picking up the body of young son. Let me handle this." Imam Hussein goes towards Maqtal, picks up the body of Hur's son in his hand. But there's one thing that is running in the mind of people. "Oh Mawla, later on, when your own son Ali Akbar falls to the ground, how will you be able to pick up his body?" وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون.